devices to silent, please. Welcome everybody. I'd also like to welcome our viewers at home who are watching the meeting via the live stream tonight. And I'll ask you if you can please be upstanding with me, and Deputy Mayor Perkoff, if you could read the opening prayer.
Thank you, Mayor Irwin. Almighty God, we ask you to guide us in all our discussions, to show goodness, honesty, understanding and wisdom in all that we undertake to do. May we respect each other's views at all times, and we ask all of this in your name. Amen.
Councillor Proud, could you please read the acknowledgement of country?
On behalf of elected members, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, on which this meeting is taking place, and show our respect to elders past, present and evolving.
Thank you. You can all take your seats. Without prior approval, any recording of the meeting is prohibited. No action should be taken on any resolution prior to written advice from the council being received. Brings us to item 1, which is the official opening. Ladies and gentlemen, I declare the council meeting of the 11th of August 2026 open at 6:31 p.m. Item 2, apologies. We have received an apology this evening from Councillor Giudice. Mr Slentz, do we have any other apologies?
No further, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Item 3, we have an approved leave of absence from Councillor Criado on leave of absence from the 10th to the 15th of August 2026. Item 4, disclosure of interest from the Planning and Development Committee on the 4th of August. There was one disclosure from Councillor Ola that's displayed on the screen behind me. Mr Slentz, can you let me know if you have any other disclosures?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I do have another disclosure from yourself for item 12.1 DS1 for the development application in Wanneroo. It's an impartiality interest as you've declared that you visited the site and met the owner.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any other indications? No? Okay. Item 5, petitions. Councillor Olo, I believe you have a verified petition this evening to table.
Thank you. We, the undersigned, do respectfully request that the Council, 1, establish local noise regulations requiring all contractors, commercial vehicles, delivery trucks and business vehicles operating within the City of Stirling to phase out traditional tonal reversing beeps. Beep, sorry, they give me a hard time. And transition to the modern broadband reversing alarms, white noise of alarms. Implement a compliance timeline with full transition required by January 1st, 2028, giving operators reasonable time to retrofit existing vehicles. 3, provide clear guidance and education to contractors, businesses and vehicle operators on compliant broadband alarm systems that meet both occupational safety and health requirements and environmental noise standards. Thank you.
Thank you for that petition. I agree with them. I would have signed it too. Those beeps in the morning from those reverses. Okay. Are there any other unverified petitions, councillors? If not, can I have a mover and a seconder to accept the petition? Thanks, move Councillor Migdale, seconded Councillor Kristovich. Can I just have a show of hands, councillors, to accept the petition? That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 6, responses to previous questions from members of the public taken on notice. We have nil. Item 7, public question time. We do have a few, so I will start with those that have been received in writing prior to the meeting. And I'll start with Mr Bruce Muir. Yes, if you'd like to come forward, please. Just on the bottom right of your microphone, you've got a silver button there. If you just press that for me, a red light will go on and you can just leave that now. I just need your name and suburb only, and then your first question, please, sir.
Bruce Muir, Scarborough.
Thank you. And your question?
The question relates to the community activity room near the Life Saving Club in Scarborough. My wife and I have both emailed Stirling City Council and Tony Kristovic requesting information on why we're no longer able to book the community activity room in Scarborough. It's a great facility, and the only response that we've received to our emails is basically that it's under review, although there does seem to be one organisation who has an ongoing booking there. So obviously Scarborough is growing rapidly with a lot of developments there, and that room is a great community facility for us to have. And so our request is that whilst it's under review, would the City of Stirling consider allowing people to book it, even if it's not for a long term and ahead, you know?
Yeah, thanks for your question. I'll get Mr Quirk to respond, please.
Thanks for your question, Mr Muir. Yes, the City has been reviewing the purpose and use of that space. Having said that, one-off bookings are now available, subject to availability, and we expect more regular ongoing bookings to be available from about mid-September. And importantly, on Gildercliff Street, we also have the Scarborough Community Hub. So if that space isn't available due to conflicting bookings, then there are a range of spaces available up at the Scarborough Community Hub.
Thank you. That's good news.
Thank you for your questions. Now, I do have some questions from Mr Ron Grimm. He has submitted them and asked myself to read them out. Question 1. I'm extremely concerned about the current state of Jackadder Lake. It looks like a raw sewage pit. Supposedly, there are ongoing tests being conducted. I have previously asked for results to be published for public scrutiny, but this has not eventuated. Are the results that bad or severe that they must be kept secret? Mr Johnson.
Through you, Mr Mayor. The water testing results will be included as part of the council report later in the calendar year.
Thank you. Question 2. The winter rains have not yet eventuated. Well, the last couple of days have been welcomed, with the Bureau of Meteorology announcing a phase of El Nino conditions. Stormwater that flows into the lake is still slowly trickling out of the creek and the drain with no successful flushing evident. There seems to be a do-nothing strategy apparent. Has the City of Stirling any secondary plans of attack to eliminate the green, which is now brown, algal infestation, and can these plans be announced and explained? Mr Johnson.
Through you, Mr Mayor again. The City recently prepared a project brief and issued a request for quote to a few consultants seeking expert advice on algal bloom mitigation options. Unfortunately, no submissions were received by the closing date because of our timeframes to report back to Council. The request has therefore been reissued with flexibility for consultants to propose an alternative delivery timeframe. We will provide a further update to clubs once the procurement process has concluded and the investigation program has been confirmed. While this has resulted in some delay, we remain committed to investigating practical and effective solutions to address algal blooms in wetlands and report these back to Council and community.
Thank you. And question 3. In the interest of safety and usefulness, would the City of Stirling consider the construction of a limestone ramp similar to the attached photograph? And I can supply it after Mr Johnson. This ramp could be used by the sailing clubs to effectively and safely launch their model boats without the need to negotiate high steps, exposed tree roots and rocks. Many of the sailing club's members are seniors with agility problems when manoeuvring over rough terrain. The ramp would be maintained by the sailing clubs who could keep moss growth under control with a stiff broom, and rubber mats could also be used to aid traction underfoot. The ramp could also be used by the contractors that launch full-size boats to fish the carp infestation. They currently launch their boats over the rocky eastern embankment of the lake. Mr Johnson.
Through you, Mr Mayor, if a solution can be found to enable safe recreational use of the lake, the City would be really happy to have a discussion with the club about how best to come up with a solution that can be achieved.
Thank you, Mr Johnson, and thank you for your questions, Mr Grimm. Next up, I have Adrian Plume. Thank you. If you'd like to come forward, and just your name and suburb to start. The mic's already on.
Yeah, Adrian Plume, and it's Doubleview.
Thank you.
The subject matter is Quoll Lane. which is a small section of lane that comes from just behind Scarborough Beach Road, Moonstone Lane, and it goes behind 7 houses and then back onto Woodside Street. The lane continues on to Hunter Street. It's all been bitumised except for the small bit, which is the bit at the top where I live, which joins onto Scarborough Beach Road. It's been an ongoing matter, and I'll just read the question as it is. I've asked on more than one ward councillor on more than one occasion over a 12-year period to have this matter addressed. When we developed the properties in this lane road, the council has charged us up to $30,000 refundable on proof of completion for us to pay for underground power, bitumising the adjacent sections of Quoll Lane and providing drainage for the lane. Also, the council is, well, as a side point, the council is expecting us to pay again for underground power and street lighting that we will not be getting. My question is when will the council bitumise this lane and provide the proper bitumising drainage that's supposed to be there?
Thank you. Mr Murphy?
Thank you for the question, Mr Plume. The city does acknowledge that you've made a number of inquiries over several years regarding the upgrade of the laneway at the property, and that's laneway 16047. On each occasion, the city provided advice on the best available information at the time and when the programme works are likely to take place. And we do recognise the anticipated delivery time frame has changed over the years, and that's largely due to the increasing construction costs, competing other priorities and budget constraints. So it's not always we're not always able to give you an accurate date for completion. Now, improvement projects are prioritised across the city on a range of factors. That's conditions, strategic need, available funding and the priority of other locations. And based on the current capital works programme and funding projections, right-of-way is presently scheduled for upgrade in the 2030/31 financial year. And with respect to underground power and street lighting contributions, these are administered under separate statutory arrangements to the city's right-of-way upgrade programme. And the underground power programme is a state government initiative, and the city's role is limited to the administration and collection of applicable resident contributions. And just to say, if you want to talk about any of that in more detail, we're happy to arrange a meeting.
So I can't quite hear you. If I want to talk what?
Yeah, the last bit I said through the mayor was that we're happy to meet you and run through some of that detail if that helps.
About?
In terms of your detailed questions.
On the timing? Okay, I'll make an appointment for that, do I? Or?
Yes. So I might just get you to give another abbreviated answer. Can I just ask all officers to speak into the microphone? They're quite faint tonight.
Okay. Do I get to ask another question now?
Yeah. But I'll just clarify, just because I think you missed a couple of the important points there about the timings.
Well, the bits I missed is the timing of it, because every time there's an election coming up, I approach this and I get answers, nothing, and then after the election, I get put back another 3 years, and come to the election, I ask again and gets put back another 3 years. This is just beyond ridiculous.
I mean, through you, Mr. Mayor, did you want me to clarify that? Sorry if you missed that. So currently, the upgrade for the right-of-way that you're talking about, is scheduled for the 2030/31 financial year.
It was scheduled for 2021, and I mean, this is just getting ridiculous. Can I have 3 questions. Second question I'm happy to withdraw, because there was a medical centre that was going to go in Moonstone Lane, but it's since moved down to Deanmore Street, so I'll withdraw question 2. Question 3, I've been a long-term resident there and I know a lot of the residents, so this may or may not be true, but I'd just like the council to confirm that they actually own the land.
Thank you. Mr Murphy?
Through Mr. Mayor, I'll take that question on notice.
Yeah, we'll provide you a response in writing. We'll check that particular part of the laneway and respond in writing.
Okay, well, then I'll ask the question as I can't get an answer, if that's okay. I'd just like to know what precedent the council can give me for levying monies for land that the council doesn't own.
Yeah, and thank you for that final question. We'll respond to you in writing with both of those and the clarification.
Oh, there'll be an email?
Yeah, and they'll form part of the minutes as well. But the director's already indicated that it'll be in contact with you after the meeting to have a discussion.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Mike Masiello. Thanks. Just your name and suburb, please.
Good evening, Mayor, Councillors, Executive Team and the Public Gallery. My name is Mike Masiello from Trig. The City of Stirling has extensively used detailed vegetation assessments of the South Trig Beach Reserve performed by Associate Professor Judith Fisher since 2010. Recently, in spring 2024, Associate Professor Fisher performed a detailed 9-day vegetation assessment for SNEC, which the City has a copy of. My question, Mr Mayor, would you be confident in saying that Associate Professor Judith Fisher is a competent, unbiased and independent expert on vegetation assessment in the South Trig Beach Reserve, considering the City has used her previously?
Thank you for that question. I'll take that on notice and respond to you in writing.
In 2025, Natural Area Management, or NAM as I'll refer, was used by the City to perform a vegetation assessment in the South Trig Beach Reserve as part of the Boardwalk feasibility study. This brief assessment was conducted in 1 day and formed the basis of opinion that a boardwalk through the dunes was the preferred location for it. This opinion was then marketed extensively through the community consultation process. NAM also has a history with the City. They are regularly used for landscaping, erosion and weed management services. In 2023, the City paid NAM $1.1 million in landscaping works. This increased 60% to $1.6 million in 2024. In 2025, the same year that NAM was engaged for an independent opinion for the Boardwalk feasibility, the City paid NAM a behemoth $2 million, which was by far the highest remuneration to any of the City's landscaping contractors. Comparatively, other councils, such as Joondalup, are spending about $200,000 to $300,000 annually with NAM. The City of Stirling is by far NAM's largest client. In addition, NAM has a commercial relationship specifically in the South Trig Beach Reserve. They have supplied through their nursery business over 9,000 seedlings over the last 2 planting seasons in this location at a cost of $54,000. Further, NAMS has been appointed for the contract to provide all the watering of these seedlings, worth over $70,000. Mr Mayor, when reflecting on this information and given this ongoing significant commercial relationship, are you confident NAM is in a position to provide unbiased advice to the City in the form of environmental impacts of a boardwalk at this location, considering the lucrative ongoing rehabilitation work requirements of a boardwalk?
Thank you for that question and we'll respond to you in writing.
The issue is that the vegetation assessment completed by Associate Professor Fisher in 24 and the one by NAM in 25 differ significantly. The NAM report shows a path of degraded vegetation that aligns with the City's preferred boardwalk path through the dunes. Advice in the 2025 NAM guidance on the TEC buffer also contradicts their own report done for the City in 2018. NAM also downplays the high erosion with extreme erosion risks at the site. There is a significant ongoing commercial relationship before, during and after they completed this independent environmental assessment required for the boardwalk feasibility. There is an obvious conflict of interest whereby reports and opinions could easily be biased towards the City's preferred want of a boardwalk through the dunes. With $2 million of annual work from your biggest client and the opportunity of years of future rehabilitation works on the line, the stakes are high. Can the City please provide written evidence as to how this blatant conflict of interest was managed as part of the procurement process?
Yes, we can. We'll
Back in
provide that
writing?
in writing to you, Mr Masiello. And I have Roland Hadley.
Good evening, Roland Hadley, Woodlands.
Thank you. Your question?
Ewan Street Community Group ask why did the Director of Planning, Mrs Shears, who is on the WA Planning Commission and the Institute of Planning Board, say that the Stirling planning staff did not promote an accommodation component for the Woodlands North project, bordering Ewan Street. We believe a small number of owners living above the premises would assist in security and safety.
Ms Shears?
Through you, Mr Mayor, thank you for the question, Mr Hadley. The application that had been submitted, which included residential, was withdrawn by the applicant because it wasn't feasible to construct. It wasn't necessarily my particular opinion. It was withdrawn from the applicant.
Thank you. Mayor Irwin, in light of the obviously substantial earnings you are receiving from both local government as mayor and as president of WALGA, excluding any other private income, why did you request a ratepayers loan to fund a spurious appeal to contest a breach handed down by the local government standards panel, then withdraw the appeal? Despite repeated requests, have you now repaid this ratepayer loan? What was the actual amount paid by ratepayers to this legal company? Is the information in the charter accounts? And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And a previous response has been provided in the minutes. And your third question, Mr Hadley?
Taxpayers must wonder what benefits have occurred from the $2 million federal government grant for Mayor Irwin's trackless project. Ratepayers know that Mayor Irwin, Councillor Proud and staffer Michelle Wollstonecroft had to go to China to conduct due diligence, all at ratepayers' expense. We ask, where was due diligence shown when the federal government would not use this Chinese company in light of the corruption and bribery cases in Africa as reported in the media? Why would the federal government provide 40 to 50 Chinese visas for only Chinese personnel to operate this trackless tram project? They would be driving, cleaning, maintaining the system. Where was the opportunities for local employment? And ratepayers are still asking and keen to know what detailed costs would be incurred for the construction of 10 35-metre raised platforms throughout Scarborough Beach Road, the cost of widening parts of Scarborough Beach, the compensation for compulsory purchases of properties and lands, the compensation for loss of income for businesses when construction is being undertaken, a bit like the Scarborough redevelopment programme. Perhaps the token figure of 787 million needs revision. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll respond to you in writing. That's all I have for public question time. Unless there is another one. In that case, I will just rule to extend public question time for one more question, as we have exceeded the 15 minutes, and invite you to come up, sir. And I don't have you down, so you'll just have to be clear with your name and suburb so we can record it.
Yes, Rodney King from Gwelup. I'm back here after about a year. I first came here to present an petition for the rebuild of the Lake Gwelup Bridge between Pascoe and Porter Street. We received about 660 e-petition votes, and we secured $1.5 million in funding to rebuild the bridge from the state government. And that would have happened no matter who got in, that would have happened. It was a much cherished asset to the community. It was frequently used. I used it a lot, and it often comes up in conversations on the forums. I just want to ask where we're at with it.
Thank you for that. I believe there is an item on the agenda this evening that deals with the lease. This is a bit of a holdover from prior to even the fact that it burnt down, or where we're at now in terms of the rebuild, but it's to do with the owning of the asset. So effectively, right now it's a Watercorp asset, so the City of Stirling, as part of the proposal tonight, would take control of that asset in the future when it's built. So that it's ready, the plans are being developed at the moment and ready to present to council shortly.
Excellent. Thanks very much, guys. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. We'll go on to item 8, which is applications for leave of absence. I request a leave of absence for myself from 14th of August to the 23rd of August inclusive. Councillors, are there any other requests for a leave of absence? on occasion. Can I have a mover and a seconder to let me have a leave of absence? Ooh. Thanks, Councillor Olo and Councillor Hatton seconding. And just a show of hands. Thank you, councillors. That is unanimous. Item 9 is confirmation of minutes. Can I have a mover and a seconder to accept the minutes of the council meeting held on the 7th of July? Move Councillor Kristovich and seconded Councillor Papard. And a show of hands for that one, please, councillors. Accept the minutes. That is unanimous as well. Thank you. Announcements by the presiding member. I do have a couple of I would like to make. The first one of those is a cheery one. And it is my great pleasure to formally welcome Jason Lyon as the City of Stirling's new Director of Corporate Services. Where is he? He's hiding over there. Jason brings with him more than 30 years of executive leadership experience across local government in Western Australia. Throughout his career, he has led large and diverse portfolios encompassing corporate strategy, finance, people and culture, technology, organisational transformation and commercial activities. Highly experienced and people-focused leader, he is known for building trust, providing clear direction and empowering teams to achieve their best. Jason is looking forward to getting to know our council, our organisation and the community we serve, and I'm sure you'll all join me in warmly welcoming him to the City of Stirling. Jason, it's great to have you on board. You have got a fantastic team to lead over there that you've been left with, and we very much look forward to working with you for the future. Thank you. The next one, not so happy. So I would like to now acknowledge the passing of former councillor Leonie Getty, JP. I wish to acknowledge with much sadness and surprise the passing of former City of Stirling councillor Leonie Getty. Leonie served as a councillor for the Balga ward from 2007 to 2011 and made a valued contribution to both local government and the wider community. During her time on council, she was a strong advocate for community safety and the enhancement of local amenities. And it'd be fair to say, since her time on council, she is still a very strong advocate for her area. She also demonstrated a long-standing commitment to community service through involvement with organisations, including the Balga Action Group, Neighbourhood Watch, and the Balga Community Association. So on behalf of the City of Stirling and our community, I extend our sincere condolences to Leonie's family and friends and all those who had the privilege of knowing and working with her. Item 11, councillors, is unresolved business from previous meetings. I have nil. Now we'll go on to item 12, which is reports and recommendations from committee. The first of those is the Planning and Development Committee on the 4th of August. Councillors, out of those items, number 12s, do we have any that you wish to pull out this evening? Councillor Ree.
My apologies. May I have, just for a question, 12.1 DS1 and 12.1 CF1, please.
Are there any other items from 12s that need to be pulled out? If not, I will go to 12.1 DS1. And I'll go to Councillor Migdale as Chair of the Committee just to move the motion.
Thanks, Mayor Irwin. I will move the committee's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Proud. Thank you. Councillor Ree, are you opposed and wish to debate this, or you just got a question?
May I have a question first and then I'll decide to... No, probably not against it, but just a question, please.
So I need to know if you're going to decide...
Just a question, please.
But you said, but then you'll decide if you're going to debate it.
Well, now I've decided that I'll just have a question, please.
Okay. Councillor Ree, you may have a question.
I'll actually have two. With the accommodation on the site, with regard to the state government's ruling, that how come there is no accommodation made with these alterations, or is it considered not extent that there would be none at all? And
Yes.
Also the public consultation, I didn't see where that was, or did I miss that?
Thank you. Ms Limbaka.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. Can I just clarify, Councillor Ree, what do you mean by accommodation?
According to the state government, if there's any major over so many millions, then we actually have to include some sort of accommodation in it. And while this is only an application for a house with the alterations and existing, because of the scale of it, I thought that would come under that umbrella. But I couldn't find it somewhere, and I did sort of raise it before.
This is a commercial.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah, okay.
but they did say when it's got a commercial and it's changing, they wanted to add accommodation in. When we went to that speech by someone from
So
the
let
planning
me get
department-
clarification. Ms Limbacher.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So for this development, there's no requirement for that. The alterations are mostly internal, with the addition of the alfresco, which is removing the car parking bays, which is the trigger for council seeing this item tonight. And in relation to consultation, it wasn't undertaken because it's minor modifications. Car parking was assessed. We received a traffic impact statement from the applicant. Our engineers reviewed it, and the city was satisfied with the parking and the traffic that could be accommodated in the local roads.
Thank you very much for your comment. That was very good, which is what I thought, but I thought I'd just get it clarified because people asked me. But with the fact of the parking, reducing it when there's already issues with parking already there, I would have thought we'd get a little bit stronger on it, but I have to take what the planners have said. But the planning,
You're debating, councillor, so I'm going to ask you to take a seat.
I'm
You
saying
said
the parking is still an issue everywhere.
that's a debate. So you said it was questions. Thank you. So there is no debate on that one, so I'm happy to put that one to the vote. Thank you. Councillors, that is unanimous. Item 12.1 CF1, Councillor Migdale as chair of the committee.
Thanks, Mayor Owen. I move committee's recommendation.
Thank you. And seconded, Councillor Papard. Councillor Ree, I'll ask you again on this one. Is it just a question or would you like to debate it?
2 questions, please.
All right. You may ask questions, that's all right. I just want to make sure it's not debate, otherwise I'll go to the mover.
That's all right. I would have said no to start with. 127. On page 127, they have the financial implications, and I've said this before, the costs are associated with the City Future Business Unit budget. Why don't we have the actual amount there? We did talk about this once before.
Mr Moore.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Reid, the only cost associated with this particular proposal were the staff costs in preparing the draft report, and that is an ongoing cost within the City Future budget.
Thank you. Councillor Reid.
So no additional cost. Thank you. Page 137. I just wondered why in here, with all the changes and the consultation we've had with the Stirling City Centre project, why it wasn't actually listed when we've got other relevant documents under 8, planning, development, local plan, design guides. Why we didn't, because it does impact upon these changes, while some of them I agree with, and we've already discussed why the pluses and minuses of some of these, particularly the parking, why Stirling City Centre project wasn't referenced there, please, because it is a big project.
Mr Moore.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Reid, the Stirling City Centre under LPS 3 is zoned development zone. This policy only applies to land that is zoned private community purpose and residential under LPS 4. So therefore, reference to Stirling City Centre is not required in this instance.
Thank you. So there's no debate on this item either, so I'll now put that one to the vote. 12.1 CF1, councillors. Just got one to go somewhere. That's it, and that is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Migdale, I will now go to you. And as presiding member, would you like to move the balance of those reports in the Planning and Development Committee?
Sure would. I'd like to move the balance of reports, please, by exception resolution.
Thank you. And seconded, Councillor Proud. Councillors, if we can now go to the votes on the balance of reports. Thank you. And that is unanimous. Members of the gallery and those viewers at home, The remainder of those Planning and Development Committee recommendations have all now been adopted by exception resolution, so they've all been passed. We'll now go on to item 13, reports for consideration in accordance 4.24 of the meeting procedures local law. And the first one of those is 14.1, proposed notice of motion. Oops, have I just jumped? There was nil. Now I'll go to 14, notice of motions for consideration. 14.1, proposed notice of motion, Councillor Perkoff. Yes, that's...
Thank you, Mayor Irwin. There's quite a bit to read up there. Do you want to read just the first bit? Is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah, that the council expresses its concern regarding the ongoing and widespread poor pruning practices undertaken by Western Power within the City of Stirling, particularly where pruning results in significant visual disfigurement, loss of tree canopy, reduced amenity and diminished environmental value. Thank you.
Thank you. That is clear. Seconded, Councillor Ree. Is anyone opposed to that? If not, we'll put that one to the vote. That is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. The next one we have is item 14.2. It's a proposed notice of motion from Councillor Kristovich on unhosted STRA.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. It reads that a report be presented to a meeting of the Planning and Development Committee in the first quarter of 2027, providing an update on unhosted short-term rental accommodation in the city, including data on the number of approvals, locations and complaints.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Papard. We'll go to, is anyone opposed to that? If not, we'll go to the vote. That is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. The next one, 14.3, proposed notice of motion from Councillor Suzanne Migdale, Trees. Councillor Migdale.
Thanks, Mayor Owen. So my notice of motion is that the City of Stirling provides up to 800 free trees for residents of the Lawley ward to be planted on private property over the next 12 months. There's actually something I missed in that notice of motion. Can I amend it now on the fly?
You can say, you're effectively, this is your motion, so...
So the intention, so I just want to change the wording. The intention is for those trees to be planted in heritage protection area, given that heritage protection area will not foresee zoning changes.
Sure. So let's just put heritage protection areas after that. Cover off.
Essentially, the intention is that those trees will be planted forever.
That is clear. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Ferrante. Is there anyone opposed? Councillor Kristovich. Councillor Migdale.
Thanks, Mayor Owen. I'm not going to speak at length on this. This notice of motion essentially is off the back of well over 800 trees that are imminently going to be pulled out in the Lawley ward. And of course, as the report says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Unfortunately, those trees were planted 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and we may not have an opportunity to plant trees in the ECU area for several years to come. So the intention here with this notice of motion is let's get those trees out in the HPA in areas where they will not be removed for demolition or rezoning or what have you, and let's get a head start in recouping our tree canopy loss, which is going to be over 1% for our ward. So it's a meaningful amount of trees that is going to affect our canopy. And it's just about getting it started and getting community buy-in, and let's get these trees planted where they will forevermore provide shade and assist with keeping temperatures down in our fair ward and city.
Thank you. Councillor Ferrante.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In addition to that, the section that we are talking about in the heritage protected areas will see a percentage drop in the amount of trees due to the ECU development. That said, It is also a forage highway for our black cockatoos, which are endangered, and the opportunity to present more trees for them to move between the heritage suburbs is a good idea, and I support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kristovich.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I think it's fair to say that this council has an exceptionally outstanding record when it comes to trees. And for those councillors who supported the budget this year, they know that they supported a $200,000 increase on our budget for trees throughout the city. Last year we spent $1,056,780. This year we're projecting to spend $1,256,500, an extra $200,000 to plant trees throughout the city. We obviously already have lots of programs where people can collect trees, get trees. We've all done it ourselves. I saw various councillors at these sorts of things, and I've done it myself. And the other thing too, obviously, we're trying to keep ratepayers' spending down. We've already put $200,000 onto trees. This is going to cost more money now to get 800 trees. The thing I don't understand is the state government is already doing this for us. There's a program, if you go to Services WA, called TreeBait. TreeBait started in 2025. Basically what you do is you buy a tree yourself, and you can buy any tree you like. You plant it in the ground on your property, you take a photo of the tree, you take a photo of your receipt, you send it to the state government, you can buy a big tree and they'll give you $150. Now that was in the first year. In the second year now they've changed it and made it a little bit better. You can buy up to 5 trees. Now the good thing about TreeBait is you can buy any sort of tree that suits your property, right? Obviously under the City of Stirling you can only buy the trees that we specify, so we've got a very restricted view on trees. So I'm trying to work out, we increased the budget for $200,000 on trees, which is fantastic, and most of us supported that. And now we've got a state government program which is giving people free trees and they're paying for it, and now we're asked to dip more into ratepayers' money when we've just passed the budget. It just doesn't make sense, and there's no logical reason for it because the free trees are already there. The state government's giving you a free tree. So at 800 trees at $150 is $120,000. So we would have to compete with the state government and offer ratepayers more than $150 per tree. Otherwise, why would they come to us? They'll go to the state. And not only that, through the state government program, they go through, private businesses and buy trees off nurseries. Whereas for us, we just propagate our own trees. So not only are we competing with the state government for funding, but we're also taking business away from small businesses and making sure that people aren't going to go to them to buy trees. So I understand the intention of it. I think it's already covered. I think we've already got a great program. Everybody knows about it. There's $200,000 more. We've increased it substantially. I just don't understand why we'd be throwing more money at it now when we've just passed the budget. It just doesn't make sense. So that's the only reason I'm opposing it. Otherwise, I think it's already all covered.
Thanks. I've got Councillor Dudek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question. On page 187 in the financial assessment and implications, it says costs associated with the proposed notice of motion will be detailed in the responding report if supported by council. Just wondering if we might be able to get a comment, considering that I think the motion as it is doesn't request a report, it just dictates an action. And so maybe in future, are we able to get a very estimate cost? Is there an issue with providing that, like a rough estimate within a week?
Yeah, no problem at all. Mr. Johnson, could we get a costing of what this would cost?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we would source a tube stock at $18.50 per tube stock, which is totaling $15,000 for 800 trees.
Councillor Dudek.
Sorry, one further question, if I might. Just on the part of the motion that was added tonight being located in heritage protection areas, just wondering if we know how many houses we have within heritage protection areas. No. Maybe, perhaps...
A few thousand.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. If this is passed, I'll perhaps follow it up.
Thanks. Can I just get clarification on the last answer? I just think it's important, I've seen the budget for what it costs for us to do trees each year. I can't possibly believe that it's $15,000 for 800 trees. Mr. Johnson.
For tube stock. So if it was for trees at advanced level, then we'd be looking at anywhere from $300 to $600 per tree.
I guess, okay. we'll leave it at that. This is the issue because there's no report in front of us, but there's a big difference of having tube stock sitting in a nursery and having trees planted in someone's house. I've just seen it. Anyway, Councillor Ree.
Well, I'm a bit confused as to why it doesn't ask for a report, because normally it gets changed to we should have a report on this first, especially when we don't have financials as we just discussed.
It's up to the councillor. This is the councillor's motion.
Normally they would change it to asking for a report, which is what I just said, but that's just me. The other thing is that in the protection areas, some of those areas don't have a lot of room to put more trees on the verge. I gather these trees are going to the verge, or they're going to the backyard, or they're going anywhere they like.
I don't know, Councillor Ree.
Well, if the city then is going to plant, they're going to go into people's houses and plant them. Therefore, people would have to say it.
Not for $15,000 they're not, Councillor Ree.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit confused. I think that we're putting trees on people that may not want them, and while I agree that there's an issue with ECU and all the trees going down, there are other places we can supplement it, and so I think we should be supporting the alternative recommendation to say to people, if you want to come and have a tree, an extra tree, come and ask us. And I agree with Tony Kristovic. I think that there's a lot of opportunity to do things. So
Are you foreshadowing the other recommendation?
yes, I'm foreshadowing it because I think it makes more sense. Because the amount we fight for the heritage protection areas, I would not like them to be told that this council said that 800 trees had to go into heritage protection area when we don't. I'm pretty sure we don't have 800 houses. I'm quite sure we don't. But I
think we do, but...
Point of clarification, there's well over 800 houses in the heritage protection area.
That's fine, thank you.
800 houses that want to have a tree.
Thanks, Councillor Reid. So we've noticed you've foreshadowed the suggested alt-rec. Is anyone else who'd like to debate this? Councillor Papard?
Yeah, I'll be brief, and I will support this motion. Practically levelling the tree canopy of 800 in a relatively small area of Mount Lawley will, in fact, significantly impact on the canopy of one suburb. So this motion will go, I think, a fair way to offset that impact. And we need to show the people of today and the future generations that we have done the right thing. The city does have limited land to work with, so we need to get the community involved and take the opportunity to have them do their part on their private properties to improve that tree canopy, and that's why I support the motion today.
Thanks, Councillor Papard. If there's no one else, I'll go back to you, Councillor Mcdowell, to close.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things I want to clarify around this. When I raised this notice of motion, I did speak with our manager, and I spoke about the cost of stock and the availability of stock because it's challenging for the city to actually get enough stock for our own tree planting. And we spoke about the outlay for 800 trees, which certainly isn't cheap. So there was the concern around the cost factor. The reason why I did not move for a report to come back was because we are imminently approaching our tree planting season right now. We're approaching tree planting season. The cheapest stock that we can get to fit this purpose is the tube stock. Again, the best time to plant a tree was decades ago. If we plant tube stock now, in 3 years' time, it'll be approaching maturity as a tree. We're getting it cheaper because it's not as old as the trees that we plant on our verges. The intention is not for these trees to be verge trees. The intention is for our residents of the HPA, which includes Inglewood, Mount Lawley, Menora, 3 suburbs, and I know that there's at least 10,000 residents, no, there'd be more, between 10 and 20,000. How many houses, I can't exactly tell you, but we are just looking to plant 800 tube stock trees in the immediate vicinity of ECU with the understanding that 800 plus mature trees are going. That's it. That's all. So we're getting less expensive stock because it's less mature. They can plant it anywhere they like. We have already been told that with regards to the new planning structure plan for the state or the new ARCO zonings, that HPA will not be affected. So we know that these trees will be forever trees when they are planted, and that is the objective here, nothing more, nothing less. I do this with the best intent in order to replace what we know is going to go. And lastly, I will say that the state government plan for trees is effectively a $10 million plan for the entire state. When you look at the Helliwell value of the 1,000 odd trees at ECU and the fact that the average age is between 20 and 40 years, I dare say the Helliwell value would be about $10 million. Do you understand that one? So what we're doing here is being as practical as we possibly can and looking to get a jump start on replacing our canopy in the immediate area. And I hope you support it. Thanks.
Thanks. And with that, that closes debate. So this is item 14.3, proposed notice of motion, noting that the suggested alt-rec is foreshadowed. So I'll go to the vote on this one. Thank you. And that motion is carried. So for councillors Dudek, Ferranti, Hatton, Iron, Migdale, Papard, Proud and Thornton, and against Kristovich, Oldo, Perkoff, Ree and myself. We'll go to item 14.4, proposed notice of motion. Councillor Migdale, tyre collection trial.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. And I raised this notice of motion as I don't know, again, if this is something that other wards encounter, but certainly I'm on a particular reserve.
Yeah, sorry.
I live.
Good
move
point.
the notice of motion first.
Thank you. No,
Can I move
it's not your
this
fault, it's
notice?
mine. That's, you moved
Sorry.
the notice of motion. Is there a seconder for this notice of motion? Councillor Ferranti. Is there anyone opposed to this nom? Councillor Kristovich. Thank you. Councillor Migdale. You can.
Thanks,
go.
Mayor Irwin. I'm not, deeply invested other than to say I encounter tyres on the side of the road across the road from my house often, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's because people get a flat and they throw the spare tyre on the verge of the
Check your wheel
golf
nuts,
course.
councillor.
I don't know why. I really can't say. But this was my way of thinking about how to resolve that as an issue. If they knew that at a City of Stirling library or, wherever, shopping centre, whatever, there was somewhere they could put the tyre, maybe it would inspire them to do the right thing. Maybe it wouldn't. But I'll leave it up to you guys to discuss.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Ferranti.
Yeah, let's get the road to the rubber, the other way around, rubber to the road.
So close.
However, I still would like to see some of the costings from the officers on this. I'll support it tonight, but I would like to see a bit more info on it. Yeah. I may be the culprit dumping the tyres at Councillor Migdale's house. No, I'm not. No. But just more info on this would be good, and just supporting it. Thanks.
Councillor Kristovich, you're opposed?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions to start with. I suppose I'm trying to find out how many residents or ratepayers over the last, say, 12 months have actually complained about tyres being dumped anywhere in the City of Stirling, specifically tyres.
I don't know if we've got anything. Mr Murphy?
Through Mr Mayor. So I suppose what I'd say is that we do get reports of tyres dumped, but not that many. I've checked today, and last year we dealt with about 7,200 complaints of illegal dumping, and 100 of those involved tyres. So it's a relatively small amount. So, the waste team have not identified this operationally as a particular problem, priority requiring a specific action. It's we're not saying tyres are not dumped, but it's not so big a problem that we feel anything specific needs to be done in terms of action, or we would have brought it forward in the budget. And probably the last thing to say in response to that question is we do already provide a service. So you can drop tyres off at the recycling centre, Balcatta. at any time when we receive them there. We do charge, there's a council charge of $23 per tyre just to cover the cost of recycling them. But, you know, anybody who has tyres can drop them off at the recycling centre.
So just for clarification, so there's been 100 out of 7,000 sites where tyres have been included with other rubbish, or just specifically tyres?
Mr Murphy.
Through Mr Mayor. So I haven't got a specific answer to that question. Of 7,000 illegal dumping cases we received last year, 112 was the figure I got given today, included tyres, or tyres were mentioned.
Right.
So it might have been that there were only tyres, but the information I've got is mostly there's other things dumped and a tyre or two with that.
And I suppose the other question I'd ask is, you know, again, over the last 12 months, how many councillors, through councillor inquiries, have raised this as an issue in their community?
Mr Murphy.
Through you, Chair, I couldn't say exactly how many people. So we will receive reports, and I couldn't tell you how many of the reports of dumping that include tyres have received on councillors. But no elected members or members of the public have raised it as a specific issue. You know, a specific issue. We need to do something about tyres. That's not something that's been raised with us.
Okay, and
Councillor.
And the last question on this particular point. So prior to this notice of motion, was there any discussion with yourself around tyres being a problem, or any issues about how we can deal with tyres?
Mr Murphy.
Through Mr Mayor, no.
No, there wasn't.
No, specifically.
All right. And I suppose my point here would be, you know, we're talking about 100 out of 7,000. And we're talking about now identifying locations around the city of Stirling, which we're going to turn to dumping grounds where people can just dump tyres, which is going to cost a lot of resources, because if you pick a location, wherever it might happen to be, a car park in a library, anybody from anywhere can come and dump a tyre. Who's going to be there to monitor it? Are we going to have staff controlling it? Are we going to have... how's this all this going to... I mean...
So I know this is a fine line, but I've done this before. Just careful, councillor, you're debating something that's not in front of us. So...
Oh, okay, sorry. So I don't see the need...
This is about a report coming
I don't
to
see the
council on
need
that.
to do a report if there's 100 locations of tyres in the 12-month period over 7,000 dumping areas, specifically to do with tyres, around spending additional money to try and look after this when it doesn't seem like that there's an issue, that's all. It's already catered for.
Is there anyone else who'd like to debate this item? Councillor Hatton.
Yeah, I will come to a question to officers in a moment, but when I go to the recycling centre, which is reasonably often, as people know,
Mr. RCB.
yeah, I don't reasonably often. I don't see a great big pile of tyres. No. So can I ask the officers what would be the, average number of tyres that do get deposited at the recycling centre?
Mr Murphy.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I did ask that question today in case this question came up. And I know that last year we received 2,150 tyres through the RCB. The reason why you won't see large piles of tyres is that our licence restricts how many tyres that we can store at any one time. So they're regularly taken away. So last year we received 2,150 tyres, but we don't keep a big pile of 1,000 tyres. They get removed regularly.
So
I think it's something like 40 at a time. We can.
Councillor Hatton.
Okay, $23 is probably quite a bit for an average household to pay, but that's what, like 6 tyres a day, I suppose, it works out to. It's not a lot, but there is that facility there. Now, my understanding is that all the tyre places, certainly Bob Jane, which I frequent quite a lot, down at Balcatta, which is near the recycling centre. I mean, if I get my tyres renewed there, they just take the old ones and charge like $10, I think it is. And there's just so many places where tyres can be deposited, and I'm not sure that we need to go to a report on this one. I think the facility is working quite well. We could, though, I could say we could consider maybe one free tyre in next week's rates, as Councillor Ferranti might bring that forward. And the cost of $23 per tyre that we have to come up with, I'm sure that it would probably be cheaper not to go and collect tyres and actually do something on that field there. So I just put that forward. Thanks.
Thanks for your debate there. I have got to mention, and I probably should have welcomed our newest member of the panel over here, Ben Dickinson from the Post newspapers, who's joined us tonight. I've got to let you all know, councillors, he's kept his head down on that typewriter all night, except Councillor Hatton, when you talked about your frequent visits to the recycling, he perked up. There could be a story there, I think. Councillors, is there anyone else who'd like to debate this item? If not, I'll go to you, Councillor Migdale, to close debate.
Thanks, Mayor. And I mean, it is, I guess, a bit tongue-in-cheek, and the idea for me was perhaps potentially one car bay in the east of the city, one car bay in the west of the city, where there could be some type of sign saying, put your tyres here. But quite frankly, litter bugs are always going to be litter bugs, and if they see the need to dump their tyres across the road from me, down the street I live on, they probably always will. So, you know, I think it's worth giving it some thought and having a trial, but there's no guarantee that it will work. You know, it's rolling the dice. So if it's cost prohibitive, I'd err on the side of caution and not support it, but potentially it works. Then it's worth supporting. I don't know.
Thank you. And with that, the closed debate. So move Councillor Migdale, seconded Councillor Ferrandi for a report to come to Council on this. I'll put that to the vote. I think we're oh, sorry, that is lost. Councillor Ree has left. Sorry, I missed that. So for Councillors Dudak, Ferrante, Iron, Migdale and Papard, and against Councillors Hatton, Kristovich, Ole, Perkoff, Browd, Thornton and myself. We'll go on to the last one of these, and that's item 14.5. Proposed notice of motion from Councillor Suzanne Migdale. Everyone should already know about this. It's been on every media channel for the last 24 hours. Councillor Migdale, you'll notice the motion.
Thanks, Mayor. I move the notice of motion as it is on the board. Do you want me to read it out or not?
No, I think it's fine.
Okay.
Everyone's got it in front of them. Is there a seconder for this notice of motion? Is there a seconder for this notice of motion? Councillor Olo. Thank you. Is there anyone opposed? Yep, Councillor Dudek. And I will open debate on this one. Councillor Migdale.
Dear me. Good evening again, everybody, on this census evening. Let me begin by making one thing clear. I'm not opposed to technology. I'm not opposed to artificial intelligence, and I'm not opposed to the use of data. Every day, all of us use data. We use it when we scroll through social media. We use it for online banking, accessing government services, navigating our cars to places that we have to go for council duties, and streaming entertainment, which is my personal favourite. Many of us also use AI and data tools in our working lives. They are increasingly becoming ordinary workplace tools, much like Excel or Word, and they certainly have been employed here at the City of Stirling by our admin staff. I recognise that as our population grows and as more people and businesses use digital services, the demand for data storage and processing will also grow. Of course, it makes sense. More functionality requires more data, and more data requires data centres. But the question before us is not whether data centres are needed. We know they're needed. The question is, where should they be located? I'm not a tech NIMBY. In this instance, I would describe myself as a YIMBY. Yes, I support the tech, and yes, I accept that data centres will be required, but I believe they should be located in places that are properly planned and equipped to manage their significant demands, ideally in suitable regional or industrial areas rather than within established metropolitan community such as Stirling. The City of Stirling is already dealing with serious water pressures. Under the Gnangara Groundwater Allocation Plan, the city is required to reduce its groundwater use by 10% by 2028, as we all know. Our community is already making changes. We're converting verges and gardens to waterwise landscapes. We're all about our waterwise verges. We're reducing or stopping irrigation in some local pocket parks, and some we're just not irrigating. Residents are being encouraged to take shorter showers, 4 minutes or less. And I can tell you that is particularly grueling and challenging in winter because, 40 minutes, easy. The city itself identifies a 4-minute shower as a way to save approximately 43 litres of water a day. Against that background, it's difficult to justify introducing another hugely water-intensive land use to our city. Data centres also require enormous amounts of electricity. A large facility can place substantial additional demand on the electricity network and may even require significant infrastructure upgrades. We should not assume that this will have no consequences for the reliability or affordability of power. At a time when households and businesses are already being asked to manage their energy use, we need to carefully consider whether Stirling is the right place for another major industrial energy load. There are also air quality concerns. Many data centres rely on diesel generators for backup power, as you probably know. Those generators produce particulate matter and other combustion emissions during testing and operation, and these may impact our air quality, right? Particularly, this is important when they are close to homes, schools, businesses, and any sensitive land uses. We should also consider noise, waste heat, traffic, security lighting, land use, and cumulative impact of 24-hour industrial operations. These are no minor matters. They directly affect the amenity, health, and well-being of the people who live and work nearby. We've seen this issue arise recently in Hazelmere, a proposed data centre near Helena River, and a school attracted significant community concern. Almost 1,900 public submissions were received, and Sidious One staff recommended that the proposal be rejected. The developer subsequently withdrew the application following strong community opposition. That experience demonstrates the importance of listening to communities before unsuitable developments are progressed. This motion on the board before you tonight is about putting community interests first. It is about recognising that not every use belongs in every location. It's about ensuring that the benefits of new technology do not come, at the expense of our water security, electricity reliability, we don't want rolling blackouts in the middle of summer, air quality, local amenity, or environmental health. I support data centres for sure, but I support putting them in the right place with the right infrastructure, appropriate safeguards, and proper regional planning. And for those reasons, I raise this notice of motion tonight and hope that you support it. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Olo.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. What Councillor McDowell was saying, I'm quite supportive of everything she is saying. My concern is after watching a program on Spotlight, in Victoria, they've got a lot of concerns because they are building these databases in suburbia. The heating, the noise, and in Victoria, they do have a lot of shortage of water. Like Councillor McDowell mentioned, water. To keep these databases cool, we have to use a lot of water. Now, we are being told by the state government that we need to lower the use of our water. Our parks are now going to be reduced and being replaced from lawn to mulch. So how are we going to support a building with all this data? I'm not opposing data. We're in the world of AI and information that needs to be stored. But I think we don't have enough information that we're just going, yeah, we'll just do it and build another database. One, we need to know location. We can't have it close in a suburbia like they're doing in Victoria. we need more information. How are they going to supply the water to keep this area cool? Like Councillor McDowell was saying, the air quality. They are using diesel as a backup, generators as a backup, which is diesel. We are talking about net zero, about our environment. So everything the data centres are doing, we're meant to be opposing. So to me, I will not be supporting the database anywhere in our suburbs. I would like more information to come to us as a council, as one of the big councils, and find out exactly if this was a proposal coming to us from any of their businesses, what would we do and where would we be looking at placing them? Thank you.
Thank you. I've got you next, Councillor Dudek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I don't think there aren't legitimate concerns with what Councillor McDowell is worried about here. And you know, data centres, they are a growing asset. We're probably going to put need to put a lot around Perth in the future. Ironically and funny enough, I'm happy to claim to be a NIMBY on this issue. If it was going in my backyard, I'd probably have a major issue. But as I said, there'll be a need for these data centres, and if our residents utilise a large enough amount of network capacity to justify one, it would make sense to have one within our geographical boundaries. But I'm just obviously still concerned about where they might go. So I might just ask for clarification through the Mayor if they're currently allowed in residential settings and what the usual conditions are on them within the City of Stirling, if any, about how far away they need to be from residential areas.
Ms Hughes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Councillor Dudek, for the question. I'll refer to how we've put them in LPS 4 because LPS 3 is running, I guess, the end of its life at the moment, and we are expecting LPS 4 to commence the end of the year. They aren't defined, they don't have their own special definition as a data centre, so they are commonly defined as a warehouse. Under the LPS 4, they are already an X use, so a warehouse is already an X use, which is a prohibited use in the residential zone, the mixed use zone, the local centre zone, neighbourhood centre zone, the centre zone, and also the private community purpose zone. So those are the zones, I guess, where we would normally have sensitive land uses such as residence. They are permitted uses in our more industrial areas such as our service, commercial, light industry and general industry land uses zones. So,
Councillor.
Thank you. And yes, just through the Mayor, is there any current restrictions on, I guess, distance away from residential that it needs to be? Or is this something that triggers community consultation when they if under LPS 4 someone were to apply to have to develop a data centre, would it trigger any sort of community consultation in the first instance, or if it was close enough to a residential, I guess, in the second instance?
Ms Hughes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, our service, commercial and light industrial and general industrial areas are always located to minimise the conflicts from a land use perspective. That being said, there are obviously instances where they do adjoin or they are nearby some residential areas. It is likely that they would be triggered to a consultation process, and if they are sort of done at scale, it possibly won't even be decided by the city. It might be an application that's made through the state system. There are requirements in terms of, like our normal assessment for any sort of heavy industry or impactful use such as this. We always ask for acoustic reports and things like that to manage impacts like noise. So if a use was triggered and it required advertising, obviously the community would have a say in that, but the planners would go through their normal assessment process. I do note the Planning Institute of Australia have produced a data centres guidance on this just this year in June, because this is a new issue and I guess everyone's grappling with how to manage these impacts. So that is sort of out there to provide some guidance to the profession.
No worries. And yeah, just I might just finish this. Obviously, a bit concerned about some potential issues with them. This is a new issue we're all dealing with. So water usage is one. I obviously begrudge the fact slightly that the state government is reducing our own groundwater allocation for our own parks, but then, perhaps, there'll need to be some scrutiny on how the water is utilised for these systems, whether or not they utilise wastewater or seawater, and how that's managed. I do just notice that there's, in the agenda, we've got right down the bottom of the page, officers can prepare a report on the outcome of these investigations following the framework being considered by Parliament in early 2027. I'm just wondering if that is, I don't believe that's referencing the CEO report from the motion. That's our officers flagging a potential report that will come after the framework has been considered.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's probably just best for us to wait until then, in my opinion. I do have concerns, and if there was a specific data centre that was being proposed, I'd fully support it coming before council so we can look at it. But in this instance, I don't think a blanket ban is wise.
Thank you. Look, I've got Councillor Ferrante next, and then I've got Councillor Papard, Proud, Kristovich, Perkov and Hatton. So I haven't missed you if you've... Just letting you know. Yep. Consider whether you need to. Councillor Ferrante.
So thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I've supported to Councillor McDowell on a number of issues, a number of motions tonight, but on this one I can't. There are already over 290 data centres in Australia. Why do we have to miss out on potential revenue? This really needs to be assessed by the city. Yes, I agree, and that's why I guess the motion's brought forward. But data harvesting is inevitable, and the advent of AI, just returning from an AI conference recently, means that our data needs to be stored here in Australia, and where we protect our ratepayers' information. If we don't store it in this country, then it will be stored in some other country. Recently, a large, won't mention their name, 612 megawatt facility in New South Wales was walked away from because the Planning Commission over there decided not to let them have a pipeline of sewage to cool their systems. They were going to use sewage water. They're not going to use domestic water, sewage. And the red tape stopped that from happening. So it's not something I'd like to see here. And when red tape intervenes, then they just go overseas and they'll go to somewhere else. West Australia is perfectly placed for our Asian partners who need more compute power. Hyperscalers need more compute power. If we don't plan for AI, which is a historic part of our lives, then the advent of the next cure for cancer may never be found, and certainly not in the city of Stirling. So I ask you not to support this motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Riley. Councillor Papard.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And I don't disagree with most of what Councillor McDowell and Councillor Oler have said, but I'll not be supporting this motion in its current form because it does effectively ask Council to begin considering what I would call a prohibition before we have in fact undertaken the necessary investigation to understand the issue properly. So this motion starts with the assumption that data centres should be prohibited and then seeks a report to justify that position. So I believe the proper process really is the reverse. So we should first undertake, I think, a more objective assessment of the opportunities, looking at the risks, looking at the planning implications, and then determine actually whether any policy response is in fact required. So until then, I cannot support the motion. And I also point out that, in fact, something that were previously expressed. My concerns are that it may become an issue for ongoing investment in Stirling as well. So by sending a message to show Stirling is in fact somewhat of a risk to do business. And so I think Stirling's got a pretty proven track record that Stirling is in fact open for business, and we are the second CBD in Perth, and we should always demonstrate nothing less. So further, as Ms Shears said, any plans for such warehouse type businesses would go through the usual planning process, and perhaps they go through this council for future consideration of their individual merits, as Councillor Dudek sort of intimated. So, lastly, I do outline, as outlined in the report, data centres are not currently defined as a specific land under the local or state planning legislation. So before discussing whether something should in fact be prohibited in the City of Stirling, we should first understand how it would be classified and in fact regulated within the planning framework. I heard Councillor McDowell on radio today on 6PR, Bowie's program, measured, passionate, considered, persuasive. Again, I don't disagree with most of what you said, but let's get all the information we need before we apply a citywide prohibition.
In the nicest way possible, Councillor Pard said he doesn't agree with you. Okay. Councillor Proud, I've got you next.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I did start off with, I did only want to just ask a question, but I'll just go through a bit of diatribe first.
Well, let's not have too much. Can I just note that we've already had 5 and we've got 4 more of you to speak on this particular item.
Okay, data centres worldwide, they're massive beasts and they're only getting bigger. If everybody saw a couple of weeks ago the ABC Spotlight show, half an hour documentary, massive, across the road, like a right-of-way, is a massive data centre. And that's small by comparison what they've got in the US and what they actually need and what they're gravitating to. No, zero consultation. People are moving out, but the damage is already done with the noise and the use of water, just everything about it. Creates a lot of heat in the suburb. I recently read developers, data centre developers in the US, they're buying up massive tracts of adjoining farmland, equivalent in one area to the size of Tasmania. The whole lot joining for a data centre and the associated uses. It's a serious business. I understand from Councillor Ferranti, like I agree, we don't want to send our info and data overseas. We want it held here in Australia. Anywhere between Perth and Alice Springs would be just perfect, about midway. You can't have it near residential. It really is an amenity issue, an environmental issue. It's a big deal and we do need to consider. So before we consider, we need to be informed. So I'm sort of either or. I'm happy to get the information and getting to my question, Mr. Mayor, through you to the Director of Planning, is this a big ask for a report? Is this going to take months or is it a simple, Councillor Migdale is asking for a next use, prohibited use for these sorts of establishments. Is that a big ask for officer time, etc.?
Ms. Shears.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the question, Councillor Proud. We won't be in a position to provide any sort of further guidance to Council until the federal government have announced, I guess, their framework. So the report does touch on a recent announcement from the federal government that they are going to provide some parameters around these types of uses. So we wouldn't want to rush ahead and develop, say, a policy or anything like that. Officers do have concerns about X-using across the city wide. We would only do that for really incompatible land uses. So I think our current scheme might have something like mining operations and corrective centres as X-uses city-wide because they're just deemed to be so incompatible with our zones. My concern about making a warehouse an X-use is that would apply to all warehouses. So there is something, I guess, that needs to be considered carefully in terms of whether or not a definition is brought in for this, and we won't know that for some time yet.
So would it be fair to say that
Councillor?
The city is not going to proceed with the report until the feds have given us their ideas? So we're not actually doing anything tonight. We will bring that after we hear the federal decision or opinion or planning.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, correct. If council decides that this motion goes through tonight, officers will wait until we have some further information from the federal government before we bring a report back on whether any recommendation changes are
I
made.
just need it. Sorry,
So
sorry. Let me clarify it. That's the, I think the alternative recommend. Was there alt rec on this? Oh, no, but so the comments on the back. So in an ideal world, that's right. But I have to correct Ms. Shears. This motion says that they will prepare a report for council's consideration. So it's not waiting till next year.
Sorry, point of clarification, Mr Mayor.
You may clarify.
In discussion with officers in formulating this notice of motion, the understanding was, I'm pretty sure I have it in there, that we know that the federal government are currently working on the parameters, and we agreed and understood that we would wait until their parameters were rolled out for this report to come back to council.
Well, I'm sorry, but this is...
So it is pending, and we're not going to hear until next year anyway. And by then, as Councillor Migdal has put forward, let me just finish and I'm sitting down. They may well be fit into a closet. I heard you a couple of times on radio today. A data centre may fit into a closet as a phone now. You know, we've got a computer in our phones. So thank you. I don't think we need to push this forward because it's going to come to us via planning next year anyway.
Look, it's not my job to change motions, but let's be very clear. This motion and what has transpired since it was put up is very different than the motion you are now trying to debate. This motion is requesting the CEO sitting next to me to prepare a report for council's consideration. It's not to wait until other stuff is handed down by federal government and wait a year and give us a report in due course. There are very different things. I'm happy if you want to change this so that says that, but this motion does not say that.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, point of clarification again. In discussion with this notice of motion and when I raised it, my understanding was, as I was told, and I can ask through you to Mr Fletcher and to Ms Shears, the understanding was federal government are currently right now working on the parameters of the data centres and that they would be rolled out to us early next year, if not before. So my understanding was that we would not receive this report back at council until then. And I said I agree with that.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, and you can clarify that. And you may have that understanding, but this is your motion. And you may have had that conversation, but this motion does not say that. Anyway, we'll continue on. I don't need clarification. I'm reading it. Okay. We now have Councillor Kristovich.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, and as you've rightly pointed out, this is about LPS 4 as well and about amending LPS 4 as part of that process. But can I start, right, considering I consider myself to be a bit of a millennial when it comes to data centres and technology. Now, it's interesting enough that nobody here has actually identified, and I'll ask Ms Shears the question, do we currently have any data centres in the City of Stirling? Ms Shears?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we believe we do have them, of varying scales though.
Yes, and I believe there's at least 4 data centres, and I think they're all in the Osborne ward of all places. The other question I want to ask is, since these data centres have been around, how many complaints have been lodged by residents, by councillors, through councillor inquiries since the data centres have been in the City of Stirling?
Ms Shears?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we had a quick look today in our system in terms of the number of complaints generally about data centres, and we haven't received any from either councillors or residents.
Okay, and my last question is, well, not my last question, but another question is, so when this popped up on the agenda, was there any discussions about data centres and how they're done and next use and everything before the notice of motion appeared?
Ms Shears?
Through you, Mr Mayor, through the normal process, Councillor Migdal emailed officers a copy of her notice of motion.
All right, but no real discussion in detail. Okay, can you explain to me also...
Point of order, Mr Mayor, there was discussion and Councillor Christie...
Excuse me, Councillor
wouldn't
Migdal.
know.
Councillor Migdal, please take a seat.
I'm just asking. I don't know.
Councillor Kristovich, can I just ask you to stay on topic, please?
Okay, sorry. All right. So the next question is, can Ms Shears please explain the implications and costs of trying to amend LPS 4 as indicated in this motion, and how the timing of LPS 4 equates to the federal government legislation?
Thank you. I think that's been answered, Councillor Christovich. So Ms Shears has given that her intent would not be to do this immediately. It would be to wait until LPS 4 is implemented.
But with clarification,
So
Mr.
Ms
Mayor.
Shears, the cost.
Through you, Mr Mayor, assuming LPS 4 came in towards the end of the year, it's about a 1 to 2 year process. There's likely no direct cost. It's officer time. We've got some prioritisation already in terms of future amendments to LPS 4 that we have lined up. So we'd have to reprioritise, I guess, that workload through the team to deliver an amendment, if councillor wished.
Just clarification there. So my understanding is that LPS 4 will already be through the process by the end of this year. Is that correct?
Ms Shears?
Through you, Mr Mayor, it's currently awaiting sign-off by the Minister. Then we are required to gazette the scheme and commence it. So that process isn't quick. We are anticipating by the end of this year.
Yeah, so just on that point, I suppose, if LPS 4 is basically signed off and delivered by the end of the year, and the federal government doesn't introduce its legislation until sometime next year, how does that equate to us holding off and waiting until we know what the feds are doing before LPS 4 happens? Because this is asking us to basically amend LPS 4 before we even know what the feds are doing.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the intent was we can't amend LPS 4 obviously before it commences. Yeah. If I'm understanding your question correctly, we would need to wait to see what gets through the federal government. Then we would need to bring back to council a report which outlines that and any officer recommended changes, and then commence that amendment process then. But that wouldn't be until, I'm guessing, sometime next year.
Yeah, and I suppose all I was saying in closing is, I know people are talking about these hyperscale AI campuses, which aren't going to be happening in the city of Stirling, but I'd be surprised how many people actually knew we already have these data centres in the city of Stirling, and there's multiple ones. And of course you wouldn't know because there's been no problems, there's been no issues. They're very quiet. In terms of water and power, and again, no issues with these ones, but these obviously big ones, they're doing solar farms, they're doing nuclear powered, they're doing gas turbines. They're the ones that are being built outside of places like this. The ones that are built in suburban areas are small ones, they're not big ones. For example, the ones people are scared of, to build that in the city of Stirling, you'd have to demolish half of Osborne Park to build one of these AI data centres. And we're not going to demolish half of Osborne Park to build a data AI centre. So it's an unrealistic expectation. These things are here already. They're in the city of Stirling. Most people didn't even know. There's been no complaints. There's no issues. There's no point. And there is already an ex-use in place for data centres, i.e. warehouses. They have to be in industrial locations. All the checks and balances are there. The planning team's all over it. I don't see the point in trying to amend LPS 4 or go through some complicated process when it's all covered.
Councillor Perkov.
Thank you, Mayor Irwin. I'm going to just echo a couple of my colleagues' words on this data centre. Councillor Ferrante, Councillor Papard. Stirling, 26,000 businesses. Stirling is indeed open for business. We had a huge breakfast some months ago to just come out of the blocks and just say, we don't want anything like this. And then it hits the social media, hits everything else, hits the radio. It's just wrong, in my opinion. Mr. Mayor, I wonder, and a lot of, I knew there was data centres in Osborne Park. So they're very, hey, wait, Councillor Thornton, hold on. Anyway, if my learned colleagues would just look a little bit to the east of us and a little bit to the south of us, they will notice a very big building called Next DC in both of those suburbs, both of those areas. One is in Leederville and one is in Malaga. I haven't heard any complaints. They're like 4 or 6 East Perth, 4 or 6 story buildings. Now, a question to through you, Mr. Mayor. How does the commercial industrial area of Balcatta, Osborne Park, or indeed Walters Park, where some of these are, how does that compare to Malaga or East Perth?
Ms. Hughes?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in terms of, Councillor, are you talking in terms of the zoning? Malaga is obviously an industrial area as well, as is Osborne Park and Balcatta. I would have to have a look at their specific zoning, but I would imagine they're similar to what we have through the city, service commercial, light industry and general industry, which is where we would expect these types of uses.
Exactly. As Councillor Kosticevich said, people have seen TV shows and episodes and things like that. America's got about, 330 million people. It's way bigger than Australia, definitely way bigger than anything around Western Australia. And they've got these massive data centres to feed that massive population. They're all keeping it on land. They don't want to send it offshore either. So you can understand the scale of these things, scale. If anyone wants to take a drive down, I think it's Malaga Drive, can't remember the one in East Perth, I used to work out there, and have a look at these buildings next DC, have a look at it. I don't know exactly how they're fed with power and water and cooling and all of that, but I haven't heard any complaints about these particular data centres. I believe we should keep this in-house. If the opportunity arises, we will have a look at it under the warehouse zoning and so on, and we'll just wait. We'll just hang on and wait till the federal government brings down its ruling. We've definitely got time to have a look at this, and Stirling is definitely open for business.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Hatton and then Councillor Thornton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, a lot's been said, and I probably hope not to repeat too much, but look, I'm not an expert on data centres. None of us are, but we are learning, and we, as council, sorry.
I was going to say, you're all giving it a good crack, though.
We're all giving it a good crack, that's right. Look, I commend Councillor Migdale on bringing this forward. Obviously, there is a real concern that she's addressing for the safety and protection of communities in cities, I suppose, in the city of Perth, in this case. There's two words that have come to my mind tonight, have been brought forward, and the word prohibit, or prohibition, as another councillor put it, it does worry me that that is put into the motion here. I could consider that motion as fairly favourable, probably, if that word wasn't there, prohibited. And the wording of incompatibility that was brought forward by our esteemed planner, I think, officer. And I just want to, I do want to reiterate that Councillor Perkoff, Deputy Mayor, has talked about Malaga premises. There's 8 data centres out at Malaga, and the most known one is the Next DC, which is a 10 megawatt centre. See, I have done some research, and it's a tier 3. And we know in the thank you.
Nice.
Nice. Have you got that one? And we know that there's problems that have been brought forward in this motion, and details with the electricity, noise, water, possible pollution, lighting, and those sort of impacts on environment and community. But you know, we need to consider that we might miss the boat as a council, miss the boat on the revenue we could gain. We have to think about environment over revenue and the negotiation on those two things. But there is an amount of forward thinking on the financial benefits. When I drive along Reid Highway past Next DC quite often, when I'm coming back from the rubbish disposal site, no, not really, it's up the other end. When I go out to Mount Helena and Brabham, to the new areas out there, it's very outstanding.
You frequent there too.
Frequent there too. It is an outstanding site, but it seems to be compatible to the area. So I do want to put to Planning Officer, if I may, about what you brought up earlier about the warehouse, and you mentioned that in the LPS 4, we already have warehouse use that would be sensitive to this particular use. Is that what you said, or could you clarify for me, please?
Ms. Shears.
Through you, Mr Mayor, thank you for the question, Councillor Hatton. So the warehouse land use, we've already listed it as an X use in some of those sensitive zones. So residential, mixed use centres, the areas where we see residential. So we're already prohibiting warehouses from locating in those zones. That's something common we do throughout our scheme. We've got those controls currently in LPS 3 as well. So we control in two ways. So we control obviously from it even going into a certain area where we know it's just probably not going to be compatible, which is why we use X-using. And then we also, if it is compatible and appropriate, we then assess it through that process, through a DA, to assess the impacts on the surrounding area.
Okay. Very short on this one. I think Councillor Proud did debate or bring forward that we have got time on this. I think the officers have mentioned that too. We know that there's federal consideration, no doubt there'll be state consideration too. So again, on some of those key things, incompatibility, prohibition, and weighing it up, negotiating environment and benefits, I'm not sure I can support this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thornton, I've got you to finish off as we approach 45 minutes on this item.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I support this notice of motion as it is on the board. I believe we're not giving enough attention to history. If history teaches us anything, it's that technology is disruptive. What the model that we have now may not be the model that we have in the future, and what will we be left with? A stranded asset. We don't want that. Technology can last 5 years, but our land use planning can be 50 years in the making. I don't think we should lock ourselves into these mega data centres. We need to be more cognizant of technology and disruption and what can occur. There's already small modular AI around. I believe that will be the future. We've gone from mainframe computers to personal computers to cloud. I don't see it being any different here.
Excuse me, councillors.
Yeah, but it'll be
councillors, let's not have a discussion. Councillor
Yes,
Thornton,
it is.
Councillor Thornton through the chair, don't ignore that.
Yes, cloud is, or AI is, but it will become more modular and small. And I believe each individual will have their own AI cloud on their personal device.
Councillors, let's just keep it respectful, please.
Well, I mean, if you look at the history of technology, that's what happens. Things get decentralised, our power, our energy. We can now produce our own power. I believe this will happen with AI and mega data centres as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Now we'll go back to you, Councillor Meekdale, for a very short close, please.
Thank you, Mayor Irwin, and I will reiterate that my intention was absolutely to await the federal parameters, the report that was to be rolled out by the federal government, in order that this report come back to council for consideration. Happy to amend it if it makes sense. I don't care. Yep. Amend or not, at the end of the day, here's the deal from where I sit representing my residents. Number one, I can think of 100 land uses that would be far more beneficial with far less risk in the City of Stirling. First and foremost is the fact that we are mid into a housing crisis. I'm just putting that out there. Second of all, nobody is saying, and I certainly have not said this evening, that we don't need data centres. When you look at those data centres that were spoken of earlier, NextDC in Wangara and in East Perth, which by the way go back about a decade, they are the size of a closet of the new mega data centres, just so you know, just so you understand the difference in the size, just so you understand that. Just think about that for a minute. And if you're struggling to think about that, remember a few decades ago when the biggest computer in the world, which was not as smart as this, took up a 5-storey building, all right? Tech does move at a rate of knots. It absolutely moves. Is it worth us considering environmental pollution, potential noise pollution, potential light pollution, insane amounts of water usage, which a warehouse does not require, and the emissions of which are not toxic to the degree that a data centre is. So just to be very clear, for those that do not support this concept, you need to understand we are setting ourselves up here with an Achilles heel, because between now and the federal government rolling out their report, anybody can apply to have a warehouse in City of Stirling, but you will get what you pay for. And so I say with grave concern, once again, totally a YIMBY, absolutely use AI. Understand that AI takes massive amounts of data, which equates to massive amounts of power and massive amounts of water. We don't have any canopy in Aussie Park to relieve the heat island effect of the heat that these centres create. And for the record, the inverted commas data centres that we've been told we already have in Osborne Park are more of a service storage in an office. They are not by any stretch mega data centres. So to be clear on what we are doing tonight, I am asking you to support this notice of motion and we will get what we deserve. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Migdal. And that does close debate. So we'll now put that to the vote. Move Councillor Migdal, seconded Councillor Olo. Thank you, councillors, and that motion is lost, 8-4. With Councillor Iron, Migdal, Olo and Thornton voting for, and the Councillors Dudek, Ferranti, Hatton, Kristovich, Papard, Perkoff, Proud and myself voting against. We'll now go to item 15, notice of motion for consideration at next meeting. Councillors, do you have any notice of motions for the next meeting? Councillor Thornton.
I have thought about this previously, and I think it's timely now, given this notice of motion that we just discussed. But I want to put forward a notice of motion to visit the definition of a warehouse, and that to be compared to a data centre. Something.
Yeah,
Something
councillor.
like.
So, councillors,
So looking at the.
Thank you, councillor. Can I ask you to take a seat? I'll just make a comment here. These don't have to be read out tonight, so can I ask you respectfully to work out what the motion is and put it up by next Monday? It will still get the same process as this, but rather than do something on the fly where we haven't actually got the motion, I think it'd be better if we do it that way.
Okay.
Yep. Are there any notice of motions, councillors, that you have tonight? If not, we'll go to item 16, questions by members of which due notice has been given. There are some, but noting that they need more information, page 197. 17, new business of an urgent nature, I've Neil. I'll now go to item 18, matters behind closed doors. Councillors, there are two confidential items to be discussed behind closed doors there this evening, 18.1 and 18.2. So can I have a mover and a seconder to close the doors, please? Move Councillor Kristovich, second to Councillor Olo. Just show of hands to go behind closed doors. That is unanimous, noting that Councillor Migdal is not in the chamber. We will bid some of you good night if you are choosing not to come back. So I'll also... which is closure of the meeting. And I now declare the meeting closed at 8:43 p.m. Thank you all for your attendance. It was very long. Thank you, Councillor Migdale, for giving us that extra hour. I appreciate it. Good night, everyone.
Jesus.